The confirmation email arrived at 11:48 p.m., buried beneath spam and flight updates, easy to miss if you weren't already tired. It listed the usual details: check-in time, Wi-Fi password, complimentary breakfast hours, and then the room number, 732-732. It didn't mean anything at the time, just another hotel room in another city, booked last minute after a delayed flight rerouted an ordinary business trip into an overnight stay. The hotel rose out of the rain like a glass monolith, all steel edges and muted lights, the kind of place designed to feel identical, no matter what city you were in. The lobby smelled faintly of citrus cleaner and coffee that had been sitting too long. At 12:37 a.m., the front desk clerk slid the keycard across the counter, smiled without showing teeth, and said, "7th floor, room 732, elevators to your left." The elevator doors closed with a soft, hydraulic sigh. The digital display climbed steadily 4, 5, 6 before pausing for half a second longer than expected at 7. The doors opened onto a carpeted hallway lit by recessed lights, quiet in the way only hotels are quiet, thick with the muffled absence of other people. The carpet pattern repeated itself endlessly, geometric shapes designed to disorient just enough that every door looked the same. 732 was at the very end of the hall. That was the first thing that felt off. End rooms usually had windows on two sides, sometimes a service door nearby. Some architectural reason to justify the extra distance. This hallway just stopped. No exit sign, no stairwell, just a single door set into the wall like it had been added later, the numbers bolted on, slightly crooked. Inside, the room was colder than expected. Not uncomfortable, just noticeably cold, as if the air conditioning had been left running for days. The furnishings were standard: bed, desk, chair, lamp, neutral colors, no artwork, no minibar. The window looked out onto nothing but another wall, close enough to touch if it opened. The clock on the nightstand blinked 12:59, never quite sinking. At 1:14 a.m., the guest called the front desk. "Is there a floor map somewhere?" he asked casually. I got a little turned around. There was a pause on the other end. Papers rustled. A keyboard clicked. "Of course," the clerk said. "There should be one by the elevators." "There isn't," the guest said, "at least not on 7. Another pause, longer this time. "I can bring one up in the morning," the clerk said. "Is there something wrong with the room?" "No," the guest said, after a moment. "No, just curious." He hung up, unsettled but unsure why. He slept lightly, waking once at 3:22 a.m. when he thought he heard movement in the wall-like footsteps in a room that shouldn't exist. By morning, the feeling had dulled into something easier to ignore. He checked out at 9:06 a.m. Over the next few years, dozens of guests stayed in room 732. Some were business travelers, some were tourists, a few were airline crew rerouted by storms. Most never noticed anything unusual beyond a vague sense of unease they couldn't quite place. But a pattern began to form in internal hotel records: complaints that didn't sound like complaints. Guests asking why their room didn't appear on emergency evacuation maps. Guests calling down to ask if the 7th floor had been renovated recently. Guests requesting to be moved without being able to explain why. At 2:41 a.m. on a Thursday in October, a woman staying in 732 called security to report knocking. "There's someone trying to get in," she whispered. Security arrived in under 2 minutes. The hallway was empty. No doors open. No footsteps. No camera footage. The knock never happened again. At 4:18 a.m. in March, a guest reported the TV turning on by itself, tuned to a channel that didn't exist, static punctuated by bursts of sound like distant voices. Maintenance replaced the unit. The replacement did the same thing. At 6:53 a.m. in July, housekeeping found the bed stripped, towels folded neatly, and the keycard placed on the desk. The guest never formally checked out. Their name was still on the register. Their luggage was gone. Their phone went straight to voicemail. They were found 2 days later in another city, confused, dehydrated, insisting they had never stayed at the hotel at all. Still, the room remained in rotation. On paper, 732 didn't officially exist. The architectural blueprints listed the 7th floor as ending at room 731. Fire escape plans skipped directly from 730 to 734. A numbering error no one could explain. Digital booking systems showed 732 as a valid room, but maintenance software did not. When auditors flagged the discrepancy, it was dismissed as legacy data ghost room left over from an old renovation. By 2019, only a handful of long-term staff even knew the room was there. One of them was a night manager named Luis, who had worked the front desk for nearly 20 years. He knew every creak in the building, every alarm glitch, every guest who drank too much, and every one who drank alone. He also knew not to assign 732 unless the hotel was nearly full. On a slow night, a new hire asked him about it. "Why does 7 skip a room on the map?" she said, scrolling through the floor plans. Luis didn't answer right away. "That's just how it is," he said finally. But in 2023, the hotel changed ownership. New management meant new audits, new safety inspections, new questions. An external consultant noticed the missing room during a fire compliance review and refused to sign off until it was explained. Emails circulated. Meetings were scheduled. Old files were pulled from storage rooms that smelled like dust and neglect. And then someone found the incident report, dated August 14, 1998, timestamp 217 A.M. It described a medical emergency in room 732. A guest found unresponsive. No signs of forced entry. No signs of struggle. Cause of death, initially listed as cardiac arrest, then amended, then redacted. Attached were witness statements from staff housekeeping, security, a front desk clerk who no longer worked there. They all described the same thing. The door to 732 had been locked from the inside, the windows sealed. The guest had no known medical conditions, and when paramedics arrived, they refused to remove the body for nearly an hour, because it wasn't just one body. There were 3. 2 of them had never checked in. The rest of the report was missing. No follow-up investigation. No police case number. Just a handwritten note at the bottom of the page, barely legible. Room sealed. Do not assign. But the room hadn't been sealed. According to city records, the hotel underwent a minor structural adjustment. 6 months later, internal walls were shifted, hallways realigned. Officially, room 732 was removed. Unofficially, the door remained, covered up in maps, erased from plans, left accessible only through legacy systems no one fully understood. When confronted with the report, current management panicked. The room was taken offline immediately. The door was locked permanently. Guests were told the floor was under renovation. At 11:03 p.m. on a Monday night, Security escorted the last occupant out of 732 and reissued them a room on the 5th floor. The guest complained of a headache and nausea. He later said the symptoms vanished the moment he left the room. 2 weeks later, demolition began. Contractors removed drywall, pulled up carpet, opened the walls. Behind the north-facing wall, they found something that wasn't on any blueprint. A narrow cavity, just wide enough for a person to stand in, running the length of the room. Inside were remnants of old wiring, outdated surveillance equipment, and vents that led nowhere visible. In the floor beneath the bed, they found a sealed access panel. It led to a sublevel that officially didn't exist. What was found there was never fully disclosed to the public. The hotel cited ongoing legal matters and declined to comment. The city fast-tracked permits. The building was closed for 6 months. When it reopened, the 7th floor ended at 731. No extra door, no awkward hallway, no gap in the map. Former staff were offered severance agreements, NDAs, quiet exits. Luis retired early. When asked years later by a journalist what had really happened in room 732, he stared at the recorder for a long time before speaking. That room was never meant to be rented, he said. It was meant to be forgotten. The reporter asked why it wasn't demolished sooner. Luis shook his head. Because sometimes, he said, buildings don't let you erase them all the way. Today, guests walk past where room 732 used to be without noticing anything missing. The carpet flows seamlessly. The lights hum softly. The floor plans make perfect sense. And if you ask for room 732 at the front desk, the system will tell you it's unavailable. No explanation, just unavailable.